Great.
Everyone in the back row is ready? All right, we'll start with Steve and Coach and then move to some questions. Coach, all yours.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for everybody being here. I want to start by clarifying a comment I made in post-game. I think the last question somebody asked me about what happened on the last play on the touchdown they got. And I misspoke. I said we were in a cover 3, and I said that the flat defender was supposed to turn up. We were not in a cover 3 scenario, and that was not the flat defender's responsibility in that situation. When he escaped the pocket, the flat defender is actually supposed to force the throw, and we should have been in a different situation in the back end. You know, it was kind of a messed up play anyway. They actually busted the protection, so anyway, I should have been better. I shouldn't have answered the question without having full knowledge, especially in a game or a situation of that scale, because the last thing I want to have happen is for there to be any miscommunication or blame on one of our players. That shouldn't happen, and that's on me as the head coach. So want to make sure I got that accurate on what happened there. It was really just another example of a great play by Jaden Daniels and him making a play in a busted situation. You know, as far as the game recap, I just, again, want to thank the fans. What an unbelievable atmosphere, and very excited about the future of what Mizzou football is building and trending towards. Obviously, we've got to continue to do our part to create that excitement and energy with the play on the field. Really proud of our football team after watching the film on Saturday. Our guys played with incredible energy and effort. They played hard for 4 quarters. We just came up short in the end, and ultimately what it came down to was not playing complementary football well enough. You know, we talk about a couple of specific areas that we got to improve on. And, you know, there was just a couple of plays in that game, specifically in the second quarter and in the third quarter, where offense, defense, and special teams were not in sync enough to win that game. And ultimately, that's my responsibility as the head coach to get those 3 phases playing together consistently in 4 quarters to win that game. And I didn't get it done, and I'll continue to work to improve on that. But with that, we're putting that game behind us, and we're moving on to this week, this opportunity. Got a very difficult challenge on the road versus a top 25 team. Kentucky, as we all know, in the 3 previous games that I've played against them have all become a one-possession game. It's always been a very physical contest. The team that seems to rush the ball better seems to be the team that's going to win the game. Definitely a trench-style game on both sides, and we're going to have to make sure we're ready for the physical style of play that they have. Have a lot of respect for Coach Stoops and what he's built at Kentucky. The way he's gone about it with sustained success and excellence, and each year his teams gradually improve as they play, and I think he does a tremendous job. All 3 phases of their team are strong. They have a very good offensively. They have a very good scheme with Liam Cohen coming back. Offensively, they run the ball really well with the transfer running back, Ray Davis. I think he's one of the best running backs in this league, and is really good. That starts with their offensive line. They are a physical football team and physical up front. They have multiple tight ends they can play with. They have a wide receiving core that has incredible speed. I think was the freshman last year. The sophomore Brown is a tremendous player that gives them that vertical threat and the horizontal speed too that creates issues. So we're going to have to really be good on the defensive side of the ball. You know, their defense, obviously Coach Stoops is a defensive guy and his background is there, but their defense does a tremendous job. Their defensive coordinator has been very successful for a long time and gives us fits with his multiplicity of scheme. I think he does not only a really good job of playing in his odd front, but creating pressure through simulated pressures and varying coverages, which is really difficult for your quarterback. They've always have big physical defensive linemen, and that is the case again this year. I think Deion Walker is an elite player at the D-line position for them, and he plays all kinds of places. J.J. Weaver is back. I think him and Xavier Delgado are competing for the most SEC games played since I've been here. Holy cow, they're going against each other for the fourth straight time, and neither one of them were true freshmen when they first played, so it's pretty unique. But really good matchup there. And then their special teams. Jay Boulware's the special teams coordinator. Jay was hired this past year in a kind of a weird coaching carousel. Coach Link was Coach Boulware's GA in 2010 at Auburn. And so we have a unique relationship with there. So that'll be an exciting matchup for those two. It's the game within the game that always makes it fun. So obviously a lot of challenges for us going on the road, night game, and we're going to have to be well prepared this week. So enough statement from me. I'll open it up for questions.
Eli, you mentioned flipping the page. How have you seen your team kind of come in, after the game, kind of tackle that head on?
Yeah, disappointed but not devastated, I think is the best way to describe it. I think we were all disappointed in the outcome, but we were not devastated. We understand as competitors. That's the thing about this league. Every week you're going to go out there and you're going to compete. You got to lay it on the line, and that doesn't guarantee you the result you want. But you got to get yourself back up. You got to pick yourself back up, and you got to put it back together again. And that's life. That's life. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, as the Rocky quote goes, right? It's about getting hit and getting back up and moving forward, and that's what we got to do. And the real challenge is we got to do we got to do our process better because we didn't get the result we want. We got to improve specifically in Toughness Tuesday. We got to be better on our Toughness Tuesday and in situational football, but it still doesn't guarantee us a result. Like, we're going to go lay it on the line, and we'll see what it is.
Eli, I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think you signed Devin Leary and coached him even for a year at
I did.
State. What did you see in him then, and what do you see in him now?
Yeah, I did. I've got some some really fun recruiting stories with Devin. Excited to see him continue to grow and play as a player, and obviously has all the talent that we felt like he had when we recruited him. And I still remember Devin coming on his junior visit to watch spring practice and sitting in the back of the room, sitting in meetings, and really have a lot of respect for Devin. He's such a competitor. He's very tough. He's got an elite arm. He's got great toughness in the pocket and command. And those are on display a lot, whether it's this year's tape or last year's tape or the year before when he was playing at all ACC level. He's a very difficult quarterback to go against because he can make any throw on the field at any time. Really, pressure doesn't faze him. Going into the Georgia game, he had only taken one sack on the season, but stands in and makes throws all the way down the field. So he's a difficult quarterback to go against. As far as what I'm seeing this season, well, I think that's a better question for after the game.
Will you seek him out before or after the game, or is that something you don't really do on game day?
Yeah, you know what? I usually see him after the game. I'm sure, I stand around the 50, and usually the quarterbacks are right there. So, I mean, if it happens, it happens. But I'll definitely talk to him after the game.
Eli, you mentioned Ray Davis for a little bit more about just what is the challenge of against him?
Yeah, really good vision and burst. I think he's running faster this year than maybe even he did last year. But he's now playing behind, or is going behind a really good offensive line that has a variety of run schemes. I think one of the things that makes Kentucky a little bit different maybe than they were last year is the amount of variety that they're carrying in the run game. And that's a challenge for you to fit because they have constant shifts, motions, and you're never quite sure where the ball's going to hit. And, even versus Florida, some of the calls early were inside runs that Ray takes off the shelf and ends up forcing a one-on-one tackle and makes that guy miss. So you got to do a really good job of keeping him contained.
So you talked about Devin Leary only being sacked once going into the Georgia game, and
He got sacked a little bit in the Georgia game. Yep.
yeah, but they only have 7 sacks on the season, so they're pretty good at protecting him though,
Mhm.
and they don't allow too many tackles for loss. So what's the key to kind of getting some pressure and getting those tackles for loss?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be true to who we are on our defensive identity, and we can't build a game plan specifically to do that. We got to do what we do at a high level and defend what they do. I think Coach Baker always does a really good job on third downs trying to create pressure, and obviously we utilize pressure on base downs too to create negative plays. One thing we've got to be careful of is we got to stay in our gaps. Showed up in the LSU game in some of our pressure situations. We're not able to maintain the gaps that we're supposed to be in, whether it's the down lineman moving or the backer blitzing, and so we got to be firmer in making sure that we're not creating seams vertically for the run game, especially with these guys.
Eli, the team committed 11 penalties against LSU. What's the key to kind of knocking some of those down and kind of entering it and trying not to beat yourselves up too much against Kentucky?
Yeah, I think that's been made aware to our team and a focus for our team starting yesterday. But we got to emphasize it today, and we've got a couple of plans in place in order to do that, to reduce penalties. You know, one of the things that we talked about as a team yesterday is we're at the halfway point of the season, and this is where we're at, and these are the statistics that have to improve in order for us to have the second half of the season that we want to have. Number one, it starts with takeaways and turnovers. You know, we've committed 5 turnovers on the season, and we've only gotten 4 takeaways. That number has to change in order for us. Takeaways and turnovers are the number one indicator of wins and losses. The second thing that we talked about was explosive plays for and against. You know, we've got to reduce explosive plays and continue to find them. The next thing we talk about is penalties, penalties for and against. And we have way too many penalties pre-snap on the offensive side of the ball, and that's got to get taken off the tape. And then we've got too many unsportsmanlike conduct penalties on the defensive side of the ball, and both of those have to either be taken off the tape or the players got to come out of the game, because the team comes first. And that's really the message to our team. The last thing we talked about was third downs on both sides of the ball. The third down numbers have got to improve in the second half of the season.
And when you look at those penalties, especially on the offensive line, is that more of a communication thing, or is there something contributing to those that's kind of making it?
It's both. It's both. I think we can be better as, you know, cadence is all about everybody getting off at the same time. And when we've got one person jumping or not jumping, that means there's not a trust in what they're hearing. And so from the quarterback perspective and from us, we have to figure that out. We go on the clap, and so we have to do a better job of understanding when the clap could occur within the sequence of the cadence, and that's something that we're working on.
When you talk about playing complementary football in all phases of the game, including special teams, you had 2 missed field goals and a 17-yard punt. What kind of went wrong with those plays, and what kind of needs to be done to fix that?
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. That's exactly what I'm referring to when we talk about complementary football. And those are just things that have to get cleaned up. There's some fundamental things that have to occur, both in the punt and on the field goal. You know, the timing of the field goal, we were late in the operation phase, and we've got to trust that the snap and the hold are going to get there and take off at the right time so that we're not rushing our kick and end up towing it. On the punt, we got to be consistent in our drops, and that's really where the inaccuracies in our punting game has been an inaccuracy in making sure that our drops are consistent so that our swing can come through accurately.
No, Harrison said on one kick earlier in the year, he hit the ground before the ball, and it looked like that might have been what happened on Saturday. Is that what you're talking, is that related to timing there?
I tend to get over my skis when I talk about kicking too much, but I don't think that he kicked the ground first, but I would say that it looked like he, what we would refer to as towed it instead of getting on the inside part of the foot, and that usually is a reference from, maybe being a little bit too rushed.
Coach, it's been 10 years since Missouri beat Kentucky in Lexington. Is that a tough atmosphere to play in, and how do you combat that this week?
It is a tough atmosphere. I've been there twice, in 2010 at Auburn, and we that year we won the national championship. Had to beat them with a last-second field goal with no time on the clock, 38-35. I think it was final score. And then 2 years ago, it was a final possession of the game. I think the final score was maybe 35-28. Yeah. Very difficult environment. Fans are really loud. It's a bowl game, so a bowl environment, so it's all on you. And they got a really good football team. I mean, it's a tribute to what Coach Stoops has done. It's a physical football team, and I think his style of play, they don't beat themselves, right? You got to go play for 4 quarters. You got to play physical, consistent football, and you can't put yourself or your team in jeopardy, or you're not going to win.
Eli, you talked about playing in an environment like that, especially in the night game, everything that comes with that. How do you go about preparing? It's obviously tough to simulate that type of environment.
Yeah, obviously we will recreate what we can from a noise environment. I think the one thing that our team will take some confidence in is most of us have played on the road in this league before in these type of environments. And so that I don't think that'll be new to them. You have a center who has snapped in these games on the road before. Obviously, we've already played in a dome that was really loud and on the road at Vanderbilt. So our guys will have some confidence in that. I think for us, whether we're on the road in Kentucky or Vanderbilt or in the dome, we've talked about we can't let external factors influence what's inside of us. And what's inside of us is our ability to focus and execute fundamentals. And we can't let external factors influence that. And that'll be our message again this week.
You've had quite a number of close calls over the last few years and a couple of controversial calls. Does that add a little bit of flavour for the players? Do they remember some of those when you're leaving a week like this?
We don't have to play the officials. I mean, so I don't know. I don't know why those controversial calls are part of the question. It's a great football game. It's been a good football game. I tend to think that both sides. We're both 5-1 coming off of losses. I think there's going to be plenty involved in the game. I mean, I don't think whether or not there was controversial calls or whatnot in the past is going to have anything to do with our desire to win this game. Yeah.
Coach, you've been talking about lately, coverages, man coverage, no coverage, stuff like that. Seeing the safeties kind of struggle with some things. What type of changes can we see schematically or personnel-wise as far as types of those things go?
Did Liam just text you and ask you what our game plan was this week? Huh? Yeah. I don't know that there's like this quick fix, like, okay, we're going to go put in a brand new coverage. Like, we got to do the little things better. And that starts with coaching. That starts with us coaching the little things better. That starts with meetings. Are we teaching it the way we need to teach it? Are we drilling it the way we need to drill it? Are we putting them in the situations in practice that show up in the games? And I think our coaching staff understands that we start first with us. It's on us. And I think all of us in this room, or in this building, in this organization, are looking at ourselves first. What are we not doing to get the results that we want? And that's where it is. There's not some magic coverage or any scheme. It's how do we do our jobs better? And right now, we're not doing the job we need to do. And quite honestly, I don't think there's a single coach on our staff that's going, okay, I'm coaching at the highest level possible right now, because we see the things on tape that we know we got to do better, right? We know in order for us to be successful, we got to take penalties off the tape. We know for us to be better, we got to be better on third down conversions and reducing third down conversions. We know we got to be better at forcing takeaways and not turning the ball over. We know we got to be better in coverages. So I don't think there's any of us, we're not looking at our players like, oh my gosh, it's their fault. We're sitting there going, we're winning in spite of the things that as coaches we need to do better, and so let's figure out how we can do it better. And that's our focus after week 6, and that's going to be our focus for as long as I'm the head coach here.
Go ahead.
Eli, how have you kind of seen Brady respond this week kind of to that 2-interception game and just kind of his work ethic and stuff and building past that?
He's thrown interceptions before, boys. So, I mean, that's part of it. That's the game. the whole interception streak. Like, the game is not without errors. Like, we're going to make mistakes. Where we have to play complementary football is the turnovers ultimately were the issue. But when you're a complementary football team, when you give away a turnover, the defense goes and takes one away for you. And that's what complementary football is. It's having each other's back. When one person makes a player makes a mistake, the other side of the ball corrects it. And for us, the learning moment with Brady, he's going to make those throws, and he's got to learn, okay, on this one, it should have been more air. What we said on the one in the second quarter is you cannot try that throw at that score in the game with the situation that we're at. We just can't afford to put the defense in that situation. But I don't know. Y'all talk to the players, but I would say to a player, they're sitting there. I asked in our team meeting yesterday, what do we have to do better? What's one thing you got to do better? And I just happened to call on KAD, and he said, I got to force more takeaways. And I think his response to that was, I know we're going to turn it over. We got to create more takeaways on defense. And that's the thing I'm so excited about our team is, man, our team is about each other right now and fighting for each other. And I think that's a good sign.
A couple of guys, health-wise, I know Ennis was kind of limited on Saturday. Was that injury-related?
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. That's something I should have brought up. But no, Ennis was injured. He's been battling a growing thing, which was it's a unique situation. That's what held him out of the Memphis game. It's flared back up actually on the other side. We're going to hold him this week, so he'll be out this week. And we need to try to get him healthy so that we're not constantly going on this back and forth. It's not fair to him as a player. He's a competitor, and if it's left to his own devices, he's always going to err on the side of wanting to compete and play. And the job as a head coach is to make sure that we balance that team and individual, what's best for both at the same time. And I actually think it's going to be best for both of us. Our team, now we got to get the other guys ready to play, knowing that this week they're up and there's not that uncertainty. We're going to definitely miss. You don't lose a player like Ennis Rakestraw and not miss him, especially going on the road in the challenge. We have full confidence in the guys behind him. But we also need Ennis to be able to take his mind off of every day, every time he aches, thinking, am I not going to be able to play this Saturday? So we'll see. Hopefully it's not something that lingers, but we'll definitely hold him this week. And hopefully it turns out like what happened with D-Rob. I thought D-Rob played his most dominant physically game against LSU because he felt more confident in his body.
I know you didn't know what was going on exactly with Brady after the game when he left the field
Mhm.
momentarily, and I know he came back and played.
Yeah.
Anything that you're able to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm able to share whatever. I just choose to not share most of the time what I don't want to. Yeah, when he scrambled, he dove and landed on his right arm bicep area, so he was just checking to make sure. I mean, but it was. I think right now with Brady, we're always like, ooh, okay, let's double, triple check. But he's fine, no discomfort through yesterday. I mean,
And I mentioned Cody had pulled his quad before.
quad's on the front side, hammies on the back. Yeah, there you go. You're pointing at your hammy there. Yeah.
I know you mentioned you pulled his quad.
Yeah.
Obviously been progressing with that. How did Saturday kind of treat him after that?
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the toughest young men I've ever been. To rush for 100 and something yards against LSU for 3 touchdowns on a pulled quads. I mean, remarkable. There's no other way to say it. He'll be questionable this week at best. That is a tough injury. I would have put him at a different category, but we're talking about Cody Schrader, and so I mean, if he's breathing, he's going to be trying to play. So yeah, I honestly think right now, Mekhi Miller's questionable. I think it's trending in the right direction, but we got to get through a couple of more tests to know for sure. And that's really it. I mean, knock on wood, we get through today and tomorrow's practice. But so far, our guys have responded pretty good this week.
Coach, a couple of those disconcerting signals calls. Did you hear anything from Connor about that false start? Was there anything of that nature on that 2nd and 1 at the end of the game?
Okay. I don't believe I can respond to that question based off of what the rules of engagement are.
Anything else for Coach?
Again, you can. Might cost you money.
I'll say this. It doesn't matter now. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So we got to execute.
Thank y'all.
Doesn't change the outcome. Thank y'all.